Do is go ahead and open up your lab notebook to your ACT section. We're going to revisit some of the things that we did last time, and then we're going to add another level onto it. So remember that the ACT test prep is what we're going to be doing all throughout this year. Every junior is going to take the ACT in April. However, you as a freshman can definitely take the ACT early if you want. By now, everyone should have found their ACT section in their lab notebook. You need something to write with as well. If you have not flipped to it, or if you need more time, just the substitute can take a little more time with that. Now, the chart I want you to flip to looks like this. We learned about the different kinds of prompts or passages. There's a data representation passage, there's the research summary passage, and there's the conflicting viewpoints. Now, one of the things that's important is to know how to identify those, and that's what we looked at last time. How to identify the data representation, the research summary, and conflicting viewpoints. Now, as just a quick reminder, a data representation passage would have charts and tables with it. A research summary question might say experiment 1, experiment 2. If it's conflicting viewpoints, it might say scientist 1, scientist 2, or hypothesis 1 or hypothesis 2. Now, what we're going to be doing is revisiting again the three types of passages: data representation, research summaries, conflicting viewpoints. And you're going to do the same activity that we had done in the last time that you did ACT practice. You're going to work in pairs, whoever you're sitting next to. You're going to go through the booklet that's assigned to you. You want to make sure that it's a different color booklet than what you did last time, okay? So hopefully you can remember which one you had last time, and just make sure it's a different one. You and your partner will get an answer sheet, and I want you to just simply classify it. Is it data representation, research summary, or conflicting viewpoints? When everyone is finished, you're going to be checking your answer with a QR code, and the substitute can find that QR code on the agenda. So if the substitute can go ahead and pause the video now, we'll come back to some more information. Should take about 5 minutes or so to classify each type of question, and about 5 minutes or so to check it, no more than about 10 minutes. Pause the video, start it again when you're ready. Now, hopefully you've already checked your answer keys with the QR codes. Check it with what you labeled it and what the key said. Part of understanding how to do the ACT test is understanding how to approach each question. And again, what we've already done is we've written out the type of passages, we've written out how to identify, but for the rest of this time, we're going to be looking at strategies for that passage. So there are specific strategies for the data representation question that are going to be different than the research summary. So the column that I have highlighted is the one you're going to be filling out now. So again, you're just taking notes as the video continues. If I'm going too quickly and the substitute needs to pause it, just let the sub know. So first of all, test-taking strategies for data representation. Now, the first test-taking strategy is you skip the intro paragraph. I know that sounds weird to skip the intro paragraph, but that's exactly what you do. You skip that section because it saves you time. The biggest barrier for many people on being successful on the science section of the ACT is that time is a factor. So for data representation, the first thing you do is skip the intro. Second thing that you do is you look at charts and graphs. So you take about 10-15 seconds and you really look at what the charts and the graphs are actually saying, okay? You want to pay really close attention to the title of those charts and graphs, to the axes, you know, what's on the X and Y axes, what the values are, and then if you see any footnotes or attention to scale. Those little footnotes often will come up as particular questions in this type of passage. So you want to pay particular attention to that. The other thing that you want to pay attention to are what kind of relationship it is. So inverse versus direct. So let me talk real quickly about a direct relationship. A direct relationship would be if one variable goes up, then the other variable goes up. Or if one variable goes down, the other variable goes down. They do the same thing. So for example, in a velocity time graph, if an object speeds up, as time goes on, time increases and our velocity increases. Increase, increase is a direct relationship. Now, if I had a set of data where as time went on, the velocity went down, then that means that the object is slowing down. That is an inverse relationship. So as time goes on, velocity goes down. So time increases, velocity decreases. That would be an inverse relationship. The big picture and trends. Understanding the pattern in the data. Don't sweat the small details. Look at the big picture. And then typically there are 6 questions for this type of passage. The first 3 questions are general information, and questions 4, 5, 6 are typically making conclusions. So all of the finding patterns in data work that we do in this class is going to help you with a data representation question. But again, you've got to get some extra time. One of the ways you get extra time is you skip the intro paragraph, you look at the charts and graphs, and then you could jump into the questions. Now, the next type of passage is a research summary. So in a research summary, this time you don't skip the intro passage, but you just quickly read it. So you read that beginning passage very quickly. Skim it so that you get the gist of what's going on. Then you're going to use this time to really mark up your text. You're going to underline the text, and you're going to write short notes about each experiment over in the margins. So quick short writing to give a quick reference and a quick bit of information will be helpful. Think about, how is each experiment similar, or how is it different? Again, this is really good to underline and write short notes in the margins about. Think about what they're trying to prove, and are they actually proving it? This is your experimental design work that you've done since elementary school, picking those pieces out in kind of a complex experiment. And again, marking up the text. Now, so as far as research summaries go, you do need to read quickly that beginning passage, but then it's going to be essential to mark it up. If it says something about experiment 1, 2, 3, mark it over to the side so that you've got it. The last one is the conflicting viewpoints. Now, if you remember, there are 3 data representation, 3 research summaries, and there's only 1 conflicting viewpoint. It's typically the most time-consuming question, so save it until the end. Do all the other types of passages first, and then do the conflicting viewpoint at the very, very end. That means that you'll be guaranteed to finish the 6 questions, and then maybe you only get partial on the conflicting viewpoints if you've managed your time okay. You want to do very, very close reading on this type of passage. You want to read the entire passage, making sure that you pay attention to every detail as it goes through it. Marking up the text is another strategy. You're going to underline important facts, box it off, make sure that you mark it so that it makes it very easy to go back to the text and find those pieces of information. You're going to identify points where hypotheses agree or disagree, and you're going to look for evidence to support each hypothesis. So again, this is where you're going to be looking at different kinds of experiments, what their hypotheses were, how they interpreted that. So the big point with this one is, 1, it's the longest question because it takes so much time. You want to save it until the very end because you don't want to blow your time frames in the beginning. And you want to do exceptionally close reading. You want to read the entire passage and mark it up. Now, we're going to do an activity where you're going to get to first practice identifying the type of passage, but then using the strategy to actually with that particular passage. So you're going to work in the same pairs you were with. We're not going to be using the booklets for this activity. So if the substitute has not picked up the booklets, they can go around and pick those booklets up. Now, what you are going to be getting is 1 green sheet and 1 white sheet. Okay? They are physics examples. Okay? The first thing you want to do is determine what kind of passage it is. Okay? You're going to be given a data representation question. You're going to be given a research summary question. Your job is to figure out which one it is. Is the green one the data representation, or is the white one the data representation, and so on. Okay? Now, once you are finished identifying which is which, you're going to start with the data representation one, and you are going to use those strategies on that question to actually answer the question. I want you to mark up the text, okay? So I want you to go through and actually do the strategy I say. So on data representation, I ask you to skip the intro paragraph and go straight to the charts and graphs and understand the trends. I want you to use those strategies on the question. And then once you're finished answering the data representation, then you'll go on to the research summary. You and your partner work together on one passage at a time. I don't want you to divide the work and each do two separate ones. I want you to talk about the strategies as you're using it. What would you box off? What would you underline? What is the trend or the big idea for each chart or graph that you are looking at? Now, once substitute pause until they are finished with this, and then you can start it back up again. You should have picked out which type of question is which. Data representation was the first one you started with, and that was the green one. Research summary was the white one. So data representation, you have certain strategies. What I want you to do is you're going to get up and you and your partner are going to walk to another team, and you're going to compare your strategies. What does your sheet look like? How is it marked up? And then what answers did you put? Compare your strategies to another group. Now, the reason we're spending time on this is because you are going to have one ACT style question on our next unit exam. So you want to be able to identify passages, but you also want to be able to use those strategies so you can be successful on those passages. So the substitute, go ahead and stop the recording until everybody has compared strategies. And I just want to remind you, if you are not looking at the question of the day, you should be. Look at the question every single day. It may be a science question. It may be a math question. It may be just one question. And I want you to make sure that you're seeing it every day so that you know what to look for.